The Euphrates River. People want to know, they've seen. Is it drying up? The Bible talks about this in Revelation chapter 16.
A golden treasure rose from the dry bones of the Euphrates River, just like Jesus warned. The river that once gave life to millions is now giving up secrets buried for thousands of years. And now, under the cracked earth, they've uncovered a dark tunnel holding carvings that match ancient end-time warnings, symbols of a drying river and the end of peace.
Millions in Syria and Iraq are facing water shortages as the region's longest river, the Euphrates, dries up.
Let us follow the whispers of this ancient river, and what lies beneath the altar may be the final sign we've all feared. A river turns to dust. In Iraq, water means life, but now the Euphrates River, one of the oldest and most important rivers in the world, is drying up. This is no small problem. The river is turning to dust, and everyone who depends on it is facing disaster. And under the dry ground, an old secret is starting to wake up. Thousands of people who once lived near the river have left their homes. Farms that grew food for millions are now empty. Families packed their things and moved away because without water, there is no life. Crops won't grow, animals can't drink. People have no choice but to leave. Iraq has always been hot and dry, but the drought this year is worse than any year before. It's the driest time Iraq has faced since 1930. Rain stopped falling, the sun kept burning, and soon the great Euphrates began to shrink. Places where boats once travelled are now just dry dirt and sand. But something else is happening, something strange. As the water disappears, things hidden under the river for thousands of years are showing up. People who lived their whole lives by the river are seeing things they never expected. Ancient treasures, old ruins, strange finds that scientists can't explain. And one discovery shocked the whole world. Near the banks of the Euphrates, where the water had completely dried, two fishermen found something they never expected. At first, they thought it was a crime scene, a human skull lying in the dry riverbed. They quickly called the authorities, worried someone had been hurt. But the truth was even more surprising. The skull wasn't from a recent crime. Scientists tested it and found it was almost 8,000 years old. That skull belonged to a man who lived during the very early days of human civilization. He wasn't just old. He was from a time before history books, a time called the Archaic period. The skull had a big injury, a mark showing someone had hurt this man badly. But the wound healed long before he died. The discovery made everyone ask questions. Who was this man? Why was he here? Scientists say he might have been part of an early group known as the Sumerians. These people lived thousands of years before the birth of cities we know today. They lived off the land, eating fish from rivers like the Euphrates, and plants they grew or gathered. Finding a skull from such a distant past opened a window into human history. It was a big deal for the whole world, but the surprises didn't stop there. As the river kept drying, people kept discovering more. Each find brought more questions and more mysteries. In another area, where the river had shrunk down to nothing, locals noticed something else shining among the dry dirt and rocks. It wasn't just a few pieces. There were bits of gold everywhere. Suddenly, news spread fast. Gold was found near the Euphrates, not hidden deep underground, but right there on the surface, waiting to be picked up. People from nearby towns rushed in to see if the stories were true, and they were. The gold was easy to collect, spread out like gravel. This discovery made many people excited, but it also worried others. In Islamic tradition, it is said the Euphrates drying up and revealing gold is a sign of something big and scary. A prophecy from long ago warned that if gold ever appeared from the drying river, it would cause fights and wars as people tried to take it for themselves. The river wasn't just drying up and showing old bones and treasures. It was telling a story that seemed to match old warnings from history books and religious texts. People started talking about prophecies. They remembered warnings written long ago in the Bible and other sacred writings. In the Bible, the Euphrates River is a big part of stories about the start and end of the world. It is said that the river will dry up completely one day, allowing armies to cross and gather for a final battle. Many now wondered if what they saw happening to the Euphrates was the beginning of that prophecy. Scientists were watching closely. They saw clearly that the river was shrinking because of many reasons. Rainfall was extremely low. Temperatures were getting hotter each year. Countries built dams that took away much of the river's water before it reached Iraq. All these things together made a terrible situation worse. Farmers who had grown food along the riverbanks for generations faced losing everything. Over 7 million people depended on the Euphrates. With no water, families struggled to survive. Many gave up, taking their children and leaving villages behind. Those who stayed tried to dig wells or buy water brought in by trucks, but it wasn't enough. Life got harder each day. And still, more strange discoveries appeared. Each new find told another story from a forgotten past. The shrinking Euphrates River was giving the world a message. But what exactly was it saying? Was it just a natural disaster? Or was it a sign of something bigger coming? With each passing day, the river kept shrinking, the people kept leaving, and the world kept watching. Many felt uneasy, like something important was happening right before their eyes, something that could change the future for everyone. What the river revealed next left even more people stunned and wondering what else lay beneath. Shadows from the past. As the Euphrates River kept shrinking, it revealed more hidden treasures from its muddy bottom. Every day, people who lived nearby would discover something surprising. The river seemed determined to share secrets it had held deep within for thousands of years. What had been safely hidden underwater was now open for everyone to see. One early morning, just as the sun was rising, a small group of young friends walked along the riverbank. They often came here looking for unusual rocks or old things washed up from the past. Most days they found nothing special, just bits of broken pottery or rusty pieces of metal. But today felt different. Today they felt something unusual was waiting for them. Not far along their walk, one of them spotted an odd-shaped stone sticking up from the mud. It was different from the usual rocks. Its edges were sharper and it had strange marks carved into it. Excitedly, the boys gathered around and started digging with their hands. It took some time, but finally they managed to pull it out. When the mud cleared away, they were stunned by what they saw. In their hands was a statue made of stone. It wasn't large, but it was incredibly detailed. The carving showed a powerful figure standing tall and strong. The figure had a crown on its head and armor covering its body, clearly someone important from ancient times. The boys stared in awe, realizing they had found something incredible. They quickly told their families, who alerted the local scientists and historians. Within hours, a group of experts arrived, eager to see the discovery for themselves. Carefully, they cleaned the statue and examined every inch. The experts could hardly believe what they were seeing. This wasn't just any statue. It was very old, older than most things ever found in the area. The carving was clear, showing a famous face from the distant past. After careful study, they realized the figure was Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a legendary king, known from ancient stories passed down through generations. These stories were so old that many believed Gilgamesh might have been just a myth. Yet here, carved into stone, was proof that someone long ago honored him enough to create this detailed statue. It was a remarkable find, like uncovering a real piece of ancient legend. Gilgamesh was said to have been a mighty ruler who had great adventures, even fighting monsters and searching for ways to live forever. His story was one of the first great tales ever told by humans. But why was his statue here, buried in the mud of the Euphrates River? Scientists thought carefully about what the discovery meant. They knew the Euphrates had been a center of civilization for thousands of years. Many great cities once stood along its banks. One of these cities was Uruk, where the legendary Gilgamesh ruled. Could this statue have once stood proudly in Uruk or a similar ancient city before somehow ending up underwater? As news of the discovery spread, more questions arose. People wondered what else could be buried under the drying river. Perhaps more ancient artifacts were waiting to be found, each one telling a piece of a story long forgotten by time. And why was the river revealing these secrets now? Was it simply because of the drought? Or was there something more mysterious happening? People began to connect the finds with old prophecies and stories from sacred texts. Many ancient writings spoke of rivers drying up as a sign of important changes or warnings from the heavens. The Bible, for example, described the Euphrates drying up as part of a significant prophecy about the end of days. Was what they were seeing now the start of something described long ago? Scientists explained that droughts were becoming more common because of changing weather patterns and global warming. They pointed out that dams built by countries upstream took much of the river's water, leaving little for Iraq. But despite these explanations, many people felt there was a deeper meaning. They sensed the drying Euphrates was trying to communicate something important, perhaps a warning, a clue, or a sign of major changes to come. The statue of Gilgamesh was carefully taken to a museum where people could see and learn from it. Historians began working hard to find out exactly how old it was and where it might have originally stood. But even as they studied it, more items kept appearing along the riverbanks, each find more puzzling than the last. Every discovery raised new mysteries. Ancient jewelry, pottery, tools, and even more statues began to emerge from the drying mud. These finds painted a picture of a once thriving civilization that had long been forgotten. Each artifact seemed to whisper about people who had lived their lives along the Euphrates thousands of years ago. Villagers along the Euphrates continued their daily searches, wondering what would appear next. The excitement mixed with concern about their future. With the river drying, they knew life was becoming harder. Yet each new discovery provided hope that the world's attention might help them. Perhaps these ancient treasures could remind the world of the river's importance and lead to help arriving soon. But even as experts studied it, new finds were already drawing crowds with surprises of their own, warnings and whispers. As the Euphrates continued drying, new mysteries appeared, each one stranger and more puzzling than the last. People living along its banks became experts at spotting things hidden in the mud. Every day, they walked the river's edge, eyes sharp and ready. They knew now that anything could be waiting beneath their feet. One day, a fisherman named Ahmad saw something unusual sticking out of the drying riverbed. It was partly hidden under a layer of mud, but the edges shined bright in the sun. Ahmad knelt down and carefully began digging. The object came loose easily, and he quickly realized he was holding something made of gold. It was heavy, pure, and unlike anything he had ever found before. The discovery quickly drew attention from the whole village. Soon everyone gathered around, excited and curious. Ahmad's find was just the beginning. As more people searched nearby, they discovered even more gold scattered along the riverbed. It seemed as if someone long ago had hidden a treasure, now uncovered by the shrinking waters. But the villagers weren't the only ones interested in this new find. News spread quickly beyond their community, reaching towns and cities far away. People from distant places arrived, hoping to see the gold for themselves. Scientists, reporters, and curious tourists all came to the Euphrates, each with their own questions and hopes. The gold wasn't just valuable, it was mysterious. Where had it come from? Why was it left along the riverbed? Historians and archaeologists studied the gold carefully, looking for clues. They realized the pieces were ancient, dating back thousands of years. Some believed the gold was part of a legendary hidden treasure mentioned in old stories. Islamic tradition even spoke of a prophecy saying the Euphrates would dry up, revealing mountains of gold and causing great conflict among people. As excitement grew, so did fear. Many villagers worried that the prophecy was beginning to come true. They had always heard stories warning of battles and trouble if gold ever appeared from the Euphrates. Now, with gold lying plainly on the ground, tensions rose among those who came to claim a piece of the treasure. The government stepped in quickly, placing guards along the riverbanks to prevent fights or theft. Officials carefully gathered and took the gold away for safekeeping and study. But even as the gold was removed, villagers continued to find new treasures, each one fueling more excitement and unease. Scientists began connecting these discoveries to old warnings from history and religion. They noted how many ancient texts mentioned the drying of rivers, especially the Euphrates, as important signs of big changes in the world. For example, the Bible described a future time when the Euphrates would dry up completely, allowing armies from the east to cross easily into the land. This new gold discovery, along with the earlier statue of Gilgamesh, made many people believe they were witnessing something important. Perhaps these events were not random. Maybe they were signs, warnings sent from long ago about important changes coming soon. Villagers and visitors alike discussed what these discoveries could mean. Local elders, familiar with old traditions and stories passed down for generations, reminded their communities of ancient wisdom. They urged people not to become greedy or let the excitement turn into violence. Elders stressed the importance of respecting the land and each other, warning that greed had always led to trouble throughout history. Even scientists began thinking differently about what they saw. They agreed that the river drying was mostly due to climate change, drought and dams. But some also wondered if nature itself was sending a message. Perhaps the earth was trying to remind people about their actions and how they affected the environment. As weeks passed, people continued finding new items, pottery, coins, weapons and tools, all appearing from beneath the drying river. Each discovery helped paint a clearer picture of life thousands of years ago along the Euphrates. But with every new artifact, questions kept piling up. Why now? Why were all these secrets appearing together at this exact moment in time? Some people saw these events as exciting and hopeful. They believed the discoveries could bring attention and help from around the world to those suffering from drought and hardship. Others felt uneasy, sensing something bigger and possibly more serious was at play. Could the river truly be communicating something important, trying to warn humanity about dangers ahead? Villagers watched as scientists and officials carefully catalogued and stored away each new discovery. Museums eagerly displayed the artifacts, attracting visitors from everywhere. Yet beneath the excitement was a constant worry about the future. The drying river meant less water, harder farming, and more struggles for survival. People around the globe watched closely, drawn by the drama and mystery of the drying Euphrates. News channels reported daily, spreading stories about the ancient treasures and their potential meanings. Discussions filled television shows, social media, and conversations everywhere. The world was captivated by the river and its secrets. With each day, the Euphrates shrunk further, revealing more about the past and leaving less water for the present. People began to wonder seriously if the river's drying was simply nature at work or a deeper, more significant event unfolding before their eyes. As questions and excitement grew, the villagers and scientists alike knew one thing clearly. The Euphrates was not finished sharing its secrets. But what came next wasn't just another object in the dirt. It was a message carved in stone, waiting to be understood. Secrets of the deep. With each passing day, the shrinking Euphrates continued to reveal deeper, stranger secrets hidden in its bed. The world watched in awe, unable to look away, as history itself seemed to rise from the drying river. Everyone wondered what new discovery would come next, and how these revelations could affect the future. Among the many searching along the riverbanks was a young man named Hassan. Every morning, Hassan joined the villagers who carefully combed through the muddy soil. Like others, he hoped to uncover something important. He believed the river was trying to tell them something crucial, a message buried under the silt and clay. One bright morning, Hassan spotted something unusual beneath a thin layer of sand. He knelt down and brushed away the dirt. It looked like a large piece of stone, flat and smooth, with strange symbols carved into its surface. As Hassan worked to free it from the mud, he saw the carvings more clearly. They were unlike anything he had ever seen, complex and mysterious, yet beautifully detailed. Soon, villagers gathered around Hassan, curious about his find. Elders quickly recognized that this was not just an ordinary stone. The carved symbols were ancient, perhaps belonging to a civilization lost to history. They called local archaeologists to examine the stone closely. Experts immediately identified the carvings as part of a language used thousands of years ago by the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia. The stone's carvings appeared to be part of a story or message. Experts worked carefully to translate it, piecing together the meaning from ancient symbols. What they discovered surprised everyone. The stone described a great flood, similar to stories told in many ancient cultures and religious texts. It spoke of waters rising quickly, swallowing whole cities and forcing people to flee for their lives. Scientists and historians became excited. The stone was proof that ancient people living along the Euphrates had witnessed catastrophic floods long before modern times. It linked directly to famous stories, including those told in the Bible and other ancient writings. This stone was evidence that ancient flood stories were based on real, historical events. Villagers listened carefully to the experts, understanding more clearly now why their ancestors had chosen to settle by the river. The Euphrates had given them life, but it had also brought great danger. These ancient warnings carved deeply into the stone were reminders of the power nature held over human lives. More discoveries soon followed. Other villagers uncovered additional stones with similar carvings, each adding more detail to the flood story. Each stone described different aspects of the ancient disaster, how people tried to save themselves, the devastation left behind, and the lessons learned. These new finds further convinced people worldwide that the drying Euphrates was not just a simple drought or climate issue. It seemed more like the river was purposefully revealing stories from humanity's distant past. It felt like the Euphrates was reaching out, reminding people of important truths they might have forgotten. Religious leaders joined the discussions, highlighting how these ancient flood stories were common in many faith traditions. They emphasized that such events had long served as warnings for future generations. Elders reminded villagers that history often repeats itself, and that learning from past mistakes was crucial. But despite the warnings, the excitement continued to build. People from around the globe visited the area, eager to see the discoveries with their own eyes. Media crews broadcasted these stories worldwide, making the drying Euphrates famous. The river became an international sensation, drawing crowds eager to see ancient history firsthand. Yet the excitement was tempered by a deeper worry. Every day the river shrank further, villagers struggled more to survive, farmers watched their crops fail, families struggled to find clean drinking water. The excitement about new discoveries was mixed with fear about their future. Government officials promised help and support. International organizations stepped in to offer aid, but many villagers felt help was slow in coming. They needed immediate action, not just promises and interest in ancient artifacts. They feared being forgotten once the world moved on to the next big story. Still, the discoveries kept appearing. Ancient pottery, jewellery, and even more stone tablets continued to surface. Each find was a new clue, another piece in the puzzle of human history. Archaeologists worked tirelessly, recording every detail and carefully preserving the artefacts. Museums competed to showcase these incredible finds, offering the villagers a sense of pride despite their hardship. As villagers and scientists uncovered more ancient stories, the world began to understand the Euphrates River in a new way. It was more than just water flowing through the land. It was a vital thread connecting humanity's past, present, and future. The drying river seemed to urge people to pay attention, reminding everyone that what happened in ancient times could happen again. Villagers talked often about the river's whispers, wondering what secrets would emerge next. Elders shared stories late into the night, cautioning younger generations to heed these ancient warnings. They understood now that history was speaking clearly through the drying mud. Yet beneath the curiosity and excitement remained a question that grew more urgent every day. What was causing the Euphrates to reveal its secrets at this exact moment? And just when it seemed the river had nothing left to show, one final discovery changed everything. The final revelation. One morning, as the sun cast golden rays across the empty river channel, a small group of villagers, including Hassan, ventured farther downstream than they had before. They walked slowly, scanning the exposed earth carefully. The ground was cracked and dry, making their footsteps echo softly in the silence. After hours of searching, they noticed something unusual. A dark opening, partially hidden beneath a large rock formation. It appeared to be a tunnel or cave, buried for countless generations beneath the Euphrates waters. Curiosity quickly overcame caution, and the villagers began carefully clearing the entrance, moving aside stones and hardened mud. Soon they revealed a wide entrance leading deep underground. The air inside felt cool and carried a faint scent of age and mystery. With their flashlights on, they stepped cautiously into the darkness. As their eyes adjusted, they saw ancient carvings along the tunnel walls, detailed symbols similar to those found on earlier discoveries. But these seemed even older, more detailed, and strangely haunting. Word spread quickly, and archaeologists soon arrived, eager to explore this mysterious new discovery. As they ventured deeper into the tunnel, their excitement grew. They documented the carvings carefully, recognizing ancient stories of creation, destruction, and rebirth. Narratives long echoed in human history. But deeper still, they found something astonishing. The tunnel widened into a larger chamber, and at its center stood an intricately carved stone altar, perfectly preserved through millennia. Surrounding the altar were statues of ancient figures, their eyes carved to seem as though they were watching whoever entered the chamber. It was clear this place had once held great significance, perhaps a site for rituals or worship. Archaeologists carefully studied the altar and the statues, quickly realizing this was a sacred place from an ancient civilization that had once flourished along the Euphrates. The detailed carvings spoke of prophecies, many eerily resembling those found in modern religious texts. Among them, a recurring symbol stood out prominently, a drying river accompanied by symbols of warning and urgency. The discovery made international headlines immediately. Experts from around the globe arrived, hoping to learn from this incredible find. Discussions intensified about the possible connections between ancient prophecies and the current crisis facing the Euphrates. Many began to believe the river was truly sending a final, urgent message to humanity. Religious leaders spoke openly, interpreting these discoveries as signs forewarned in sacred writings. They urged people to take these warnings seriously, reminding them of humanity's vulnerability when ignoring nature's balance. Scientists, while hesitant about spiritual interpretations, agreed that the messages of caution were relevant, urging immediate action against environmental destruction and water misuse. Villagers, now used to global attention, watched as their home became the centre of international focus. However, despite worldwide attention, they still faced daily struggles for water and food. The river's drying was not just revealing ancient history, it was actively reshaping their present lives, forcing tough decisions about their future. Efforts to help increased, with international organisations providing aid and governments promising better water management. Yet, many feared it might already be too late. The drying Euphrates had revealed not only fascinating history, but also severe warnings about the consequences of ignoring nature's signs. With global support, the villagers felt hopeful, but cautious. They knew their survival depended on immediate action and real change. Discussions about environmental responsibility and sustainability echoed around the world, spurred by the discoveries along the drying riverbanks. Each artifact, each ancient carving, and each hidden chamber reinforced the importance of respecting nature and understanding the deep connection between humanity and the environment. The Euphrates was no longer just a drying river. It had become a global symbol, a powerful reminder of the past and a stark warning for the future. Finally, as the chamber's secrets became widely known, villagers sensed they had reached the end of their remarkable journey of discovery. The river had shared its final revelations, clearly communicating the urgent need for change. It was now humanity's turn to listen and act. Villagers gathered one last time along the riverbanks, honouring the Euphrates that had given them life and now offered them wisdom. They spoke quietly of what they had learned, about their history, their connection to the land, and the responsibilities they faced. The Euphrates had revealed the secrets of the deep and reminded humanity of a truth easily forgotten, that nature's warnings must never be ignored. As the sun set over the dry riverbed, casting long shadows across the cracked earth, villagers knew they had witnessed something extraordinary. They had seen history rise from beneath the waters, heard whispers from ancient civilizations, and received warnings clear enough for the whole world to understand. The final revelation was clear. It was now up to everyone to decide how to respond to the river's message, one of caution, respect, and urgent responsibility for the future. As darkness settled, villagers left the Euphrates River, hopeful but uncertain, carrying its profound lessons back into their daily lives and beyond. What if the river dries for good and we still don't change? Like what you saw. Hit that like button, drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that go deeper than the surface.